Hello, welcome everyone. I am the moderator for this session, and so I hope that everyone here is for Bad News Burnout with Melissa Eppard. My name is Christy Fenewald, and I ask that while we are in this session, if you can make sure that your mic is on mute at this time. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and we will have different breaks throughout this session where we will answer those questions for you. So with that, without further ado, this is Melissa Eppard. She is a certified life coach and breast cancer thriver from Hudson Valley, New York area. After her diagnosis in 2014, she became a certified life coach, helping her clients live life on purpose, fully awake and aligned with their core values. She loves working with other survivors, helping them reduce stress, process the learning that comes from a life-altering cancer diagnosis, and make meaningful steps at reimagining life. She uses mindfulness tools like guided visualizations and EFT tapping to help people work through fear and to reconnect to the things that bring joy and meaning. Learn more at melissaeppardcoaching.com. With that, I will turn it over to you, Melissa.
Hi, how you doing, everybody? Thank you for that introduction, Christy. So thank you for joining me, everybody. And just curious, who's been feeling a little burnt out, a little crispy lately? Whew, I'll tell you, we've been through a lot these last couple of years with the pandemic, world issues, this current situation in Ukraine, certainly things closer to home in our lives, health issues, right? So in this breakout, we're going to explore how burnout and stress manifest in our lives, experience a moment of mindful stress reduction. And I'd love for you all to leave today with a menu of ideas on how to better cope with the stress in your lives. And to start, I imagine that all of you have been, maybe had a busy week, and you've also been attending other portions today and maybe feeling a little saturated. It is, 4:15. So I thought we could start with a moment of mindfulness, just a pause to recalibrate. So I invite you, if you're holding anything, to set it down so your hands are free. Maybe you'd like to feel your feet on the floor. If you want to sit up a little bit, noticing your posture. And as you sit there, you can feel the connection of your seat underneath you. All right. I invite you to let your belly soften. Maybe you'd like to put a hand on your belly or a hand over your heart. And you could either close your eyes or soften your gaze. And as your body settles, just want you to notice your breath. You don't have to force anything. Just notice the breath flowing in and going out. Following the breath with your awareness as you listen to my voice. All the way in and breathing all the way out. Not trying to change it in any way. Just breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, feeling the breath as it passes through your nostrils, and breathing out, feeling the breath as it leaves your nostrils. Keeping your awareness lightly and gently on your breath, breathing mindfully in this present moment. And if thoughts come in, as they do, just acknowledge them without judgment and let them go. Let them drift away like clouds floating across the sky, bringing your awareness back to your breath, back to my voice in this moment. Each time your attention moves away from the breath, distracted by a thought or something you have to do later, maybe there's a worry, something's been bothering you, just notice the thought and then let it go. Letting your full awareness be on your breath as it comes in and goes out. noticing that familiar rhythm of your breathing. And bringing your awareness now back to your feet on the floor, feeling that seat beneath you. We're going to do one final breath and let out an audible sigh, letting it all go. Breathing in. Just let it all go. Doesn't that feel good? Just taking a moment of mindfulness like that can really help reset your day. So I'm going to share a slideshow with you here. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the stress response. All right, let's go back here. 1 second. Okay. Here we go. So, we've all felt stress, but what is it, and why do we have this stress response, right? So stress is our physiological and psychological reaction to an event or condition that's considered a threat or a challenge. And it's that feeling of emotional pressure and strain. And when we experience stress, our bodies react by releasing a surge of chemicals and hormones that trigger the fight or flight response. And a little bit of that is good. It can be beneficial. It can indicate when change or growth is needed. It can provide motivation to make meaningful shifts, right? And this lightning fast cortisol response has helped us adapt and evolve over the millennia. But what happens when it's no longer like the tiger that's about to lunge on us or a poisonous snake in the grass, and it's over and over throughout the day, right? Somebody's, cuts you off when you're driving. You hear bad news on the TV, on the radio. You get into a fight with somebody and you keep having these cortisol spikes. And so it can become very chronic and affect many aspects of your body. It impacts, memory, metabolism, the immune system, cognition, digestion, sleep. So we've all experienced these negative effects of stress and burnout, right? There's additional stressors that we have as people who've been diagnosed with cancer. So I just want to touch on that real briefly. So, the survivor stress and trauma triggers that we all have experienced from time to time can include cancerversaries, right? The first time you had surgery, the day of your diagnosis, things like that. Revisiting medical offices can certainly be triggering. If you have complications from a surgery or from treatment or a cancer recurrence or fear of recurrence. And then hearing about another person's diagnosis, recurrence, or their death. These are all can be very triggering. So as I talk now, I want you to think about where stress and feelings of burnout, how that manifests in your life. What does that look like in your body? So as I talk, if you want to put in the chat, what happens to you in your body? Just get really curious about how you experience stress in your life. So the first step in learning some strategies and coping, and I think about it like resilience, it's like a muscle. I can develop some practices and attend to that stress that's in my life because, right, we all have it. It's going to happen. But how do we respond to it, and how can I cope with it in a better way, in a healthier way? And the first step, I think, is to identify that it's happening and notice when your system's getting overloaded. I have a son with special needs, and in his school, they talk about being regulated or dysregulated. So I can kind of notice when I'm dysregulated, and I have certain practices that I do to help bring myself back, so I can feel like I'm at home in my own body. All right, so I'm going to just take a look here. I'm not sure, Christy, I'm having a hard time seeing the chat thread, but did we get any comments here?
Yes. So a couple of written, I wrote myself that I find myself getting sick more often. Others have mentioned that they have had trouble sleeping when they are stressed, or that they find it's hard to focus when they are stressed. Some others have said that they have racing thoughts, they get headaches, fatigued, but definitely a common theme about cannot sleep when stressed.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know for me too, I feel it often like in my shoulders. Or do we have any teeth grinders? Do you ever get it in your jaw, the tension there? I imagine as you were hearing some of these things listed, like I was nodding myself. Um, so let's talk about some coping strategies. Um, I already passed through here. Here's just a very brief list. I could go on and on. As I was making this, I was like, there's so many ways that we could, you know, cope with stress and help support our bodies. Certainly, it's like the chicken and the egg, right? I need more sleep, I need more rest, but my sleep is disturbed. So how do I get better sleep? How can I have healthier sleep? We could talk about that a little bit. Other ways of coping with stress is getting some regular movement, exercise, dance. How do you nourish your body, right? Am I eating well, or am I eating a lot of sugar? Do I have a lot of caffeine? Deep breathing, listening to calming music, taking a bath. Certainly, sex, pleasure is a wonderful way of reducing stress. That increases oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin in the body. And ways to cope with stress with your mind is talking about it with supportive people, friends and family. Certainly asking for help. Was that a hard one for anybody? Like when I was diagnosed, learning to ask for help was a big lesson. Journaling, like working through your feelings privately, having some prompts and exploring those feelings. Maybe planning and prioritizing if you're having a lot of stress related to work or your family. Like how can you plan things out or break things into smaller bite-sized pieces? And then also evaluating habits and patterns. For instance, and this ties to sleep, does anybody do some doom scrolling late at night when you're laying in bed and you're just looking at your phone? Yeah. And a piece that's interesting about that, there have been some studies that the blue light emitted from our devices can really mess with the melatonin our body produces. And so they actually advise people to avoid blue light for I think it's 2 hours before you go to sleep. So maybe that's a place you could change your habits. Noticing your inner dialogue, certainly, is this a voice of am I constantly criticizing myself? Am I really judgmental? Or can I find a way to befriend myself and be a little softer and kinder? And if you really need it, if you feel like you've been in a place of chronic stress and anxiety, or depression, seeking professional support, the therapist or counselor is very important. How to cope with it on a soul level. And some of this might tie in, you could say, well, this is mind also. Yeah, it's a whole body. I'd say practice saying no more. That was really difficult. The first time I ever worked with a life coach, I was tasked with saying no 5 times. And I couldn't believe how hard it was that I'm a chronic people pleaser. I always want to do for others. And so having good boundaries, saying no, taking a social media or news break. Have you ever tried that, just for a day? Just don't look at social media or don't turn on the news. Just give yourself a little rest if you need it. Sort of balancing out the need to know with the need to stay sane, right? So there might be times where a break is necessary. I mentioned being compassionate with yourself. Certainly accepting stress, this is a part of life. So I can manage it better. I don't have to expend that energy of trying to be perfect or trying to pretend that stress is not going to be in my life, because how can you just cope with it and accept it? Evaluating habits and patterns, spiritual connection, like if you have a practice or you have a spiritual, religious and spiritual beliefs, connecting with something larger than yourself, that can be very helpful. Mindfulness practices. And I love this last one, like contributing and volunteering. That's something that helped me through the stress of the pandemic as I started working with our local soup kitchen and delivering meals, and just helped feel like I was doing something with all that nervous energy and that stress. So there's a couple other things that I wanted to share. The brain, like what's wonderful of what we know about the brain has neuroplasticity. So if you've been in this like rut, I shared this picture of footprints in the snow, because our brains are sort of like this. We keep thinking the same thought, we keep doing the same thing, we get these deeply entrenched patterns, right? So how do I create a new pathway? How do I think different thoughts or respond to my stress differently? It starts with making some new habits, some healthier habits, so you can start to respond differently. Notice when you have that same knee-jerk response to a stressful trigger, and just get curious, like what could I do differently? So I want to talk a little bit more deeply about some of the things that I just shared on the previous slide. These are some strategies that have been really helpful for me in dealing with stress. And just to give you like a short little brief synopsis of some stress in the past, for me, the year I was diagnosed with breast cancer, my son was also diagnosed with autism. My mother-in-law, who is our primary caregiver, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it was like this trifecta of insane stress in my life. And so it's like trial by fire. I really had to learn how to respond differently and how to care for myself in a better way. So I would say, like, definitely making time and prioritizing your well-being. Chances are, because you've all had cancer diagnoses yourselves, you've had to learn that lesson too, right? It's like that spoon theory idea. How many spoons do I have? I only have so much energy to give out to others, so I have to also replenish myself. Holding an attitude of compassion towards yourself, like letting go of self-judgment. When I can accept the full range of my feelings without judgment, I become an ally to myself, and I don't waste energy making myself wrong, right? I can be a better advocate for myself when I come from a place of self-love. So you might want to, like, when you're feeling that tension in your body, that's a first indication, like I need to pay attention, like what's happening right now. Like really, if I can name it, like what is the situation? What is it that's causing me to feel this stress or this burnout? And it could look like making a list or doing some journaling just to go a little deeper and probe into that. Like what are these situations, big and small? Do at the end of the week, do like, or even at the end of the day, just do a little inventory. Like, when did I notice my stress levels really start to spike upward? I love this question too. Like, one of the practices I do is called EFT tapping. It's a great stress reduction tool. And when I do tapping with people, I start out with a question of, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much stress is there in your life right now? Like, how much stress does this cause? By giving that a number, you can see, like, if am I doing the things that are going to impact me positively? Am I creating a shift? Is my stress going down? We actually gauge that as we do EFT tapping. We do a number at the beginning and then a number at the end, and to see if that stress response is lowered. If you allow yourself some time to reflect, especially after a stressful episode, think about how you responded, and consider what else could you have done in the moment? Like, how else could you have responded? Is there maybe a moment where you could have paused or just taken some time to get like yourself settled, nurtured yourself? Um, Speaking of nurturing, this is a really important one. See if you can look inward and ask yourself, like, I've identified this is what's causing me stress. I've identified this is how much stress it's causing me. And so you can even, like, if you feel where the stress is being held in your body, maybe let's say your stomach is really tight and you put a hand over your belly and you just tune into your belly. You can ask yourself, like, what do you need right now? How can I show you more support and more nurturing? What activities, places, or relationships have meaning and heart for you? You can draw water from I was gonna say, you can't draw water from a well that's run dry, right? You can't, like, keep giving and giving endlessly. So this is how can you give back to yourself in a way that's going to be meaningful and fill your cup? Um, this requires, all of this requires taking responsibility for your stress. Uh, when I know, I just right now I got an image of, like, a small child lashing out, like throwing a tantrum. Like, that's suitable for small children. But as we grow up and we have to leave those kind of impulsive, acting out behaviors behind and do things that are going to, mitigate the stress. Like, for example, if I'm in self-preservation mode, I see it as my responsibility to take the best care of myself as possible. And it's not about doing it perfectly, but just trying my best. So think about what you can do, like, to balance out that stress in your life. How plugged in do I need to be all the time? Or what is really most important right now? And give yourself permission to feel those feelings, permission to say no. Maybe that's even a question you could ask yourself later. It's like, what do I want to give myself permission for? What do I need right now? Another really great strategy is having a constructive outlet for stress, right? So if stress is naturally going to be in our lives, what could we do? Like, what speaks to your interests that where you could, let it out? For some people, they love exercise, dance. I love being in nature, hiking or gardening. Um, if you like getting, like, an endorphin rush, maybe, some people like kickboxing or MMA, really getting that physical exertion is a great way to get stress out. If you're someone who loves creative expression, maybe taking up, like, like I mentioned, journaling or doing painting or crafting, something that, what's wonderful about all of these ways of expressing yourself creatively is they're happening in the moment. So as you're doing something with your hands, you're paying attention and you're using your fine motor to, like, really just study the materials, whether it's like your pen on paper, or as you're typing and you're thinking of these words and forming the words. You might be writing about something that happened in the past or thinking about the future, but the act of writing is happening right now. And that's anchoring us in this present moment. So, I did mention also that if stress becomes too chronic and you're feeling like you need that additional support, there are lots of wonderful therapists and coaches out there. And it's, I think it goes without saying that, no one should ever feel like ashamed for reaching out for help. It could be the best thing you do for yourself is to get some additional support. So I'm going to open up this discussion now. Actually, let me see if I've got any more slides. I think I have one more. Yes. So we often forget our tools when we struggle, when we need them most. I don't know if that's happened to you, like where if you're feeling really stuck or really fried, maybe not, maybe that's the time we don't reach for the thing that you need. So this is why in this supportive circle right now, in this summit, we can share our good ideas with each other. We can create a menu of tools. Think about the things that you've done in the past that have worked for you well, and the things that you would like to try. Maybe you've heard something today that you'd like to implement. And I did mention EFT tapping before. So before I forget, if you go to my website, melissaepardcoaching.com, and click on the survivors tab at the top, I have an EFT meditation that you can tap along to. And it's all about managing fear and uncertainty after a cancer diagnosis. I know that's something that cloud of worry can linger, especially if you're been freshly diagnosed. So doing some tapping and reducing stress around that topic can be really helpful and help you manage other stresses in your life. So what I'd love to hear in the chat, actually we have a fairly medium-sized group here, so it'd be okay if anybody wants to unmute. And I'd love to hear, what coping strategies do you use to manage burnout and stress? Feel free to either write in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand.
I can read the chat for you and then interrupt me if someone else raises their hand. But we do have, Katie has said breathing and sitting outside. Jessica has said dance party works and reading like crazy. Monet also said reading. I said breathing, being outside. Katie also agreed dance. Monet said listening to music. Melissa said taking a walk, sleep, and playing with the dogs.
Oh, these are great. I forgot pets. Yes. and children too. My son was a huge help. He was 3 when I was diagnosed, and he's just in the moment. Talk about mindfulness and presence. I could have a really crappy day and just sit on the floor and play with him, and it's gonna make everything better.
Jessica said she can't wait to get back into getting massage. You guys know what I'm saying. Melissa said the massage school by her offers $35 massages. There's one I know where I live in Austin where they do them for free on, I forget which day of the week, but you can go in and you can get a free massage if you are a breast cancer survivor. Suzanne said she has 3 very attentive dogs sitting now after a wrestling match, listening to every word. Katie said she volunteered for a breast cancer massage.
These are great. Yes. And I'm thinking of, there's other modalities, right? Like reflexology, getting a facial, right? Treating yourself. It's not always possible though. Not everybody has expendable income and can go do treatment. So if you can't, it's what can you do in your home? It could be something small, and just really carving out that time for yourself, like your favorite tea in your favorite cup, 5 minutes sitting in the sunny window, really allowing yourself to relish in that moment. And it might even involve designing with the people in your home and your family members that for this amount of time, I don't want to be interrupted, really being intentional about it. Yeah. So I thought that what would be really great if we could kind of buddy up. We could go into pairs, and for just 3 or 4 minutes, share with the person that you're paired with some strategies that you would like to try, something that you plan to do to help with feelings of stress and burnout. And then we're going to come back here just for 1 more minute. I've got something I want to read to you.
Melissa, you did have one question somebody posted. I didn't know if you wanted to take it now. But Melissa asked, how long does it take to recover from burnout? Worked a job that required over 80 hours a week for over 2 years. Quit it 6 weeks ago for health, and wondering how long it takes to rebound.
Wow, that is a good question. I think it really is unique to each person. But some things that you could look at and maybe working with, I worked with a holistic chiropractor, and we did a lot of work on the adrenal glands. And so there's like adaptogenic herbs and medicinal mushrooms and things like that. You can ashwagandha, things like that you can take. I would first talk to your doctor, make sure it's okay with any medication you're taking. But how can I nourish my adrenal glands and my stress handling system? And maybe it looks like I need a lot of sleep. Maybe it looks like I need to have, some nourishing things in my life, like just allow myself to be in the weeds for a moment and not have a plan, like not necessarily know what that next thing is. It can be scary and uncomfortable, but that might be part of the process. And it's hard to answer, like, I would love to know more and talk with this person more, and that's like a whole session unto itself, but that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. Any more questions? So I think what we could do, Christy, is we've got time, so maybe we'll
Yes.
go into pairs. And again, before we go, the question is, what would I like to try, or what will I do? And what am I committed to doing in the next week or 2 weeks when I feel stressed or burnout? How will I take care of myself? Okay. And then we'll come back, we'll meet back here.
Okay, I've gone ahead and opened up 4 rooms. So everyone should get the invite and head over there. And then Melissa, Christy, and Amanda and I were not assigned to a room. So if y'all want to jump in a room, just let me know and I will assign you.
How is that going so far? I hope I'm not talking too fast or too much. Okay, everybody's coming back in the room here. I had this idea that I might offer a little EFT tapping, but before I do, were there any insights that came up? Anything you want to share from that breakout, that little mini breakout there?
I'll read anything in the chat that I see.
All right. So EFT is one of my favorite stress reduction techniques. And all you have to do is tap along with me on the points that I'm going to tap on and repeat after me. And you're all muted. So you're just going to speak out loud. No one's going to hear your voice. You're just going to hear my voice. You start here on the karate chop point. It's 4 fingers on the side of the hand. I'm just going to quickly show you the points and then we'll start. Then you go to the eyebrow point. It's right here where your eyebrow begins. And then side of the eye, right there where those crow's feet like to form, at least on me. And then under your eyes, right there, the ridge of the occipital bone, under your nose, under your mouth, right there, where that little divot is. Then you do the collarbone point. It's about 4 inches below your collarbone, both hands. And then you go under the arm, and you can raise your arm only as high as you're comfortable. And it doesn't matter which side, right or left. And it's an open palm, kind of percussive like this. So those are the points. And for the most part, you keep your eyes open. But in the beginning, I'm just going to have you close your eyes for just a moment. And I want you to conjure up something that's been causing you stress. Something that's been feeling a little too stressful. Notice where you feel that stress in your body. And on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most stressed, how much stress is there as you think about this situation or this topic? Okay, just notice that number. And now you can open your eyes and take a deep breath in. And on the side of your hand here, even though I have this stress, you're going to repeat after me. All this stress in my life, even though I feel this stress, I deeply love and accept myself. right here. I hate feeling this way. This stress is so overwhelming sometimes. It makes me feel tense. It disrupts my sleep. I wish I didn't feel this way. But sometimes it just is so overwhelming. All this stress in my system. I wish I could just let it go. But how could I possibly do that? This situation won't go away. It just keeps affecting me in all parts of my being. And I care so much. How can I feel better about this situation? It reminds me of other times in my life I felt stressed. And I felt scared or angry. I want to feel better. Side of the eye, I want to calm my nervous system. What if it were possible? What if I could let go just a little bit? Letting go of some of this stress. It would be good for me to let go of some of this stress. And maybe in this moment, maybe I could even let go of all of the stress. It is good for me to relax. Relaxing in this moment. Telling my body it is safe. Inviting calm into every cell of my body. I am here for me right now. I can come back to this feeling anytime I choose. I am good at taking care of myself. Sending love into every cell of my body right now. So pause here, close your eyes again, take a deep breath. You might notice some tingling. And just notice on a scale of 1 to 10 as you tune into that topic again, how much stress is there in this moment right now? Did that number go down a little bit? Did it go up a little bit? It's okay. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I'm sorry to rush that. I could spend like an hour doing that. Did anybody feel that number go down a little bit? Raise your hand. Yeah. Good, good. So ideally you want that number to go to a 3 or lower. If it's still up there, it means there's more tapping to be done. And EFT is like peeling layers of an onion. So I know we only have like 3 minutes left. I am going to share 2 of my favorite quotes, and then maybe if I have time, I'll answer a question. This is from, I love this quote so much. This is from theologian and Trappist monk Thomas Merton, who says, "To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender oneself to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone and everything is to succumb to violence. More than that, it's cooperation in violence. It destroys your inner capacity for peace. It destroys the fruitfulness of your work because it kills the root of inner wisdom, which makes the work fruitful." Love that one. And this next one is by one of my favorite authors, Elizabeth Lesser, who wrote Broken Open and Cassandra Speaks. She says, whatever is happening, whatever is changing, whatever is going or not going according to my plans, I release my hold on all of it. I leave behind who I think I am, who I want to be, what I want the world to be. I come home to the great peace of the present moment. Thank you for sharing this present moment with me. It's been really nice spending this time with you all. And I know we have about 2 minutes. If anybody has any final questions or comments, you can write in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever you prefer.
Lots of comments saying thank you for the EFT tapping, that was very successful.
Good. Thank you for joining me on that. And if you're curious about tapping and how it could help you in your lives, I do offer a complimentary session for first timers. So just go to my website, melissaeppercoaching.com, and you can reach me there, send me a message. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, that first poem, right, Katie? Did that hit you? Yeah, right. That's like powerful. It's like cooperation in violence. Whew. Well, I know we're going to get cut off like in 30 seconds or so. So I just thank you all. I send you all like a big hug, give yourself a little squeeze. The compression is nice too. And thank you, Christy. And thanks Young Survival Coalition for having me at the summit this year.
Thank you, Melissa.